This experience happened during my college years. My friend secretly took his dad's car out. We went to a classmate's birthday party together in the countryside. He had been drinking at lunch that day. I knew I shouldn't drive a car after drinking, but I needed a ride home in his car. It was already 10 p.m. when we finished the party. On the way home, my friend and I got into an argument over a small matter. He started yelling at me. He started slamming on the gas and the car was going faster and faster. I thought he had gone crazy. Then, the car lost control and hit the highway guardrail. A few minutes later, I was out of my body. I went through a strange tunnel, and I had no idea where I was going. Everything didn't look so bad, and I thought I was going to heaven. Suddenly, I stopped moving. I started to fall and my speed became faster and faster. I was falling into a black hole. I heard screams of pain and horrible laughter. I also smelled the most disgusting odor, and I almost threw up. Then, all around me turned into a sea of fire. Directly below me was a huge furnace filled with boiling lava. The flames began to engulf me and I began to scream loudly. I kept struggling and I crashed into the rocks around me. I felt pain all over my body. A horrible group of creatures were approaching me. They were ready to drag me into a huge black gate. I tried to kick them away, but there were just too many of them. I cried out to God, but there was no response. One huge monster began to tear the skin on my back with its nails. Another monster stood in front of me and laughed. It seemed to know all about me. For example, my mother died a long time ago and my sister is still in prison for theft. I saw people running and screaming in front of me. Everyone was tormented by these monsters. Suddenly, I saw that my friend was here too. He was hanging after his clothes were stripped off. There were nails nailed to his hands and feet. Very much like Jesus on the cross. My grandmother had told me the story about Jesus before. The creatures began to whip him. While beating, they spoke some language I could not understand. The flames had engulfed my friend. The flesh on his hands and chest had begun to melt. He cried loudly, pleading with them to stop. The fire around my body also grew larger and larger, and I began to cry out loudly. As I cried, I prayed aloud, "God, please help me." I realized that when I prayed to God, the demons showed more anger. When I wanted to give up praying, a hand led me out of the place. I went back to the tunnel I was in before. I don't know how long I was in the tunnel, but I was awakened by the voice of the doctor. The doctor told me, after 2 hours of resuscitation, I had recovered. But unfortunately, my friend had passed away. After several months of treatment, I resumed my normal life. I told a friend, who is a devout Christian, about my experience. He explained to me what had happened to me. He gave me counseling for about 2 weeks. Through his enlightenment, I gave everything to Jesus while I was in college. I never wanted to go back to that place that smelled rotten. Whenever I thought of my friend, I would silently weep. I don't know where he has gone. Maybe he is still in hell, being tortured by the devil constantly. Or maybe he went to heaven. When I told my family about this, they all expressed their doubts. I was also reminded that I should watch less horror movies in general. I knew it was not a movie, and I saw scenes more horrible than any movie. God gave me a second chance, so now I can work for Him. After hearing the first story, Do you believe that hell really exists? Feel free to tell me in the comments section. Next is our second story of the day. I have had two near-death experiences. The first one happened when I was 18 years old. When I was very young, my parents argued a lot. Occasionally, they would fight over very minor things. I was terrified to be around. The worst one was when my mother broke her leg and was sent to the hospital. Not long after that, they got divorced. This incident had a big impact on me. School was also a place I really hated. I was bullied a lot at school. I was fed up with it all. I wanted to end it all. I spent 2 months buying sleeping pills. I went back to my room and took all the sleeping pills. Suddenly, I left my body. I was floating in the air. It was so dark that I couldn't see anything. I don't know how long it took, but I heard someone calling my name. After a while, the voice called out my name again. I replied, "I am here. Do you know what you have done?" I replied, "I don't care about anything right now." I felt a breeze. Then I saw a faint light in the distance. This light grew brighter and brighter. I saw a rectangle. There were candles lit all around the rectangle. I came closer and saw that it was a coffin. I saw 3 figures, one standing and the other 2 kneeling. The voice asked me, "Is this what you want?" I answered again, "I don't care." I could see everything in front of me. The one standing was my father, my mother was kneeling. The other kneeling was my grandmother. Hearing their sobs, I felt their pain. I didn't think that my leaving would cause them so much pain. I cried, "I don't want to die, I want to go back." A breeze blew again. I woke up from my room. I felt very nauseous. I began to vomit non-stop, throwing up the sleeping pills I had taken. I sat in bed for a long time. I kept thinking about what had just happened. The second experience happened in 1998. My car broke down and I was about to get out of the car to get it checked out. The pickup truck behind me pulled up as well. It was far from the city and I felt very scared. Suddenly, he pulled a pistol out of his pocket. I tried to start the car again. He walked up to my car and shot me twice. Later, a passerby helped me call the emergency number. I was taken to the emergency surgery. When I woke up, a beautiful landscape appeared in front of me. On the right was a very beautiful river and on the left was a dense forest. It was full of flowers of all colors. I kept walking along the river. I was curious about what the water in the river tasted like. I was about to drink the water. I heard a voice saying, "Don't drink it, the water in the river doesn't taste." But I didn't see anyone, so I kept walking. I wanted to swim in the river. And as I was about to jump into the river, the voice appeared again. "No, that's not water, do that and you'll regret it." I felt very strange. I continued walking along the river. Suddenly, I saw a very large boat full of people standing on it. I waved to them and they responded with enthusiasm. I saw a very big house by the river. There were many people sitting in the house and they were talking to each other. I slowly approached them. Some of them smiled at me. I asked them, "Can I get on that boat?" They reminded me, "Don't go, your time is not up yet. You will lose yourself there." A man was approaching us. When he came close enough, I felt intense love. I can't describe these feelings in words. He told me, he was here to help me with my problems. We didn't communicate verbally. It was all telepathic communication. I knew he was Jesus. He had beautiful eyes and long brown hair. He wore a long white robe. The only thing I felt around him was joy. Jesus told me that I could not stay. I had a mission to complete on earth. I asked him what the plan was. Jesus showed me everything that was planned for me. I saw that I was married and had my children. I even learned his name. When the images disappeared, I went back to Jesus. I asked him, I'm not sure if I can go back because I was shot. He reassured me, he will take care of all this. I pleaded with Jesus that I thought life was too hard now and I wanted to stay. He told me again that I could not stay and that it was time to leave. He also told me that he would see me again and that he would always be there for me. When I woke up in the hospital, my mother was holding my hand. My mother told me, I have been in a coma for 5 days. An escaped prisoner shot at you and took your car. It almost hit the heart. The doctors aren't sure how I survived. But I know what I went through. Jesus was watching over me that day. During my hospital stay, I met my current wife, who is a nurse at this hospital. 2 years later, we got married. Soon we had our first child. I know it was God who protected me. I know a lot of people will say this didn't happen. I don't really care if anyone believes it. I know what I went through.